let's talk about another. Now, this bill is been introduced by the Republicans. This is not like the cuts to Social Security and Medicare that they want to push through on the back of the debt ceiling. This is something probably they couldn't join. They wouldn't leverage. I don't think they would leverage. But it is a bill, understand, that they're going to push, they're going to vote on it. All the Republicans in the House, if they take the House, will vote for this. Maybe there'll be 10 that don't. And it will sit there, and it will become an expectation of the Republican Party. And when Donald Trump or Ron DeSantis, if they happen to win in 2024, and the Republicans control 3 branches of government, you are going to get their Don't Say Gay bill. And what is that bill? It is a bill that has been brought in, introduced by Mike Johnson of Louisiana, and it is entitled the Stop Sexualization of Children Act. Children, of course, are not sexualized. They've been, our public schools have been sexualizing children for so long. That's
letting them know gay people might exist.
It really is just about gay people existing. Here is, let's just go in with Mike Johnson's tweet first. NPR has a piece on this too. Of course, they sort of tiptoe through it. And it's like, it's hard to say. Contemplate for a moment, all the sexualization that's going on with young children. How does this manifest itself? Has there been a rise in teen pregnancy?
I think the opposite.
Okay, well then, has there been I don't know else. Has there been a rise in teen sex? The answer is no.
Nope. But there's a rise in teens saying it's okay to be gay or trans.
That is correct. The only thing that has changed in this society, in terms of, I don't even know if this is sexualization. This is about identifying yourself as with a sexual orientation.
Or gender orientation.
Or gender orientation, for that matter.
Which is not sexual.
And that means, you can have a crush. You can be a boy and have a crush on a boy and not feel like you're some type of freak and that you're some type of pariah because of it.
And that something's about you is actually not allowed for discussion in schools.
Right.
What message is that?
So well, it is specifically to prevent these things from being discussed. So here is Mike Johnson. He is from a Republican from Louisiana. Republicans are introducing the Stop the Sexualization of Children Act, the first bill to ensure that none of your tax dollars go to federal programs, state or local government agencies, schools, or private organizations that expose children under 10 to sexually explicit material. What does sexually explicit material mean to you? To me, it means images of people having sex.
Xander Corvus.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Pornography or the Karma Sutra. I don't think that in story hour in first grade, they're like, see? Well, check out this.
So Alejandra Caraballo says, responds, your bill defines sexually oriented material as anything that involves sexual orientation, gender identity, or related subjects. Essentially equating LGBTQ people to sexually explicit material. She says it's dehumanizing and disgusting. And what it is all about, ultimately, is to turn the clock back and, one, reverse the normalization of the existence of gay people in society. Go back to that paragraph. Sexually oriented material, and of course he calls it sexually explicit in his tweet, but the bill says sexually oriented.
They do this all the time and then get upset with you for pointing out the chasm.
Oh, that's just about language.
Read the bill, actually.
Read the bill. Now, what is sexually oriented material? What is that? What does that even mean? You're a man. Well, I just made a sexually oriented. Did I just make a sexually oriented observation?
I think you did.
Or let me put it this way. You are married, or you have a boyfriend or girlfriend. Is that sexually oriented? Because the implication is that, like, if you're married or that you have like a partner, that you guys may have sex. You may have sex. Is that sexually oriented? I mean, we're told that by these same people that a marriage should be about procreation. So isn't like marriage sexually oriented? Is it? And then it's not just sexually oriented, because if I say you're a man, that's your gender. So maybe that's not covered. Here's the bill. The term sexually oriented material means any depiction, that would be pictures, any description, okay, maybe if I'm saying like sexually explicit, but this is sexually oriented, or simulation of sexual activity, any lewd or lascivious depiction or description of human genitals, or
what does that mean?
That's not happening.
Like, I mean, no one's like in health class being like, oh, like that's a big dick. Or
if there was a teacher doing that, Libs of TikTok would have like done.
No. But you have to understand, these ors create different silos.
Yeah.
So, or simulation of sexual activity, any lewd or lascivious depiction, okay, that's one thing of human genitals, or description of human genitals. Now, my son is 9. He has already been told about sex, and I'm happy to do it, but if there are parents who don't, it is important that a 9-year-old be aware of his or her privates. And if it's not happening at home, it's important that it happens in school, because just to protect them.
Yeah, so they know what's wrong, like
okay,
what's not acceptable.
Or, so forget everything you've just heard. That's not relevant here now. Or any topic involving gender identity. So the existence of trans people. To even mention the word trans is a topic which involves gender identity. Gender dysphoria, which is a separate thing in and of itself. It's a problem that may lead to you to talk about gender identity, but those are two different things. You cannot talk about transgenderism. You cannot acknowledge it exists. And you cannot acknowledge that exists the next thing, which is sexual orientation. In other words, you cannot acknowledge that there are gay people. You cannot acknowledge that there are lesbians. Mm-hmm. You can't acknowledge it. You cannot say, and listen, any topic involving sexual orientation would be my saying, as a man, that I have a husband. It would be Emma saying that she has a wife or a girlfriend.
Yeah.
You can't say that now. In this country, under a 10-year-old, if the Republicans get their way. And then that's not enough. Related subjects. Do you know what that is? Do you know what related subjects is? Because it can mean anything they want it to. Mm-hmm. It depends on what circuit you're in.
It's our discretion.
If you're in the 8th Circuit, the 5th Circuit, if you're in half the country with judges dominated by courts dominated by a Trump judge, it could be anything. This is specifically to not just shove transgender people into the closet, gay people into the closet.
When they say sexual orientation too, you know who it's going to be applied towards. I mean, it's not. We are already seeing it in practice. It doesn't matter if a straight teacher says my wife or my husband, or that is kind of discussed in a naturalized way. The only time the outrage is directed and you have parents storming the school board meetings is when it's a gay or a trans teacher. And so, like, you know, in practice, we all know how it's going to be applied, even though they're making it broad in terms of sexual orientation as a way to hide their true brutality.
Yep. This is the mirror image of the Florida Don't Say Gay bill.
Yeah.
That's what's going on here.
And this is like an international sort of right-wing sort of movement. I mean, we talked with Sean Fay, the author of the transgender issue, about Section 28 in the UK in like the 80s, and the whole thing was theirs. We don't want them to publicize homosexuality, and it was this exact same sort of thing. There's this Council of Europe, from Commission for Human Rights. They have this piece on the 2019 bill from Poland that was basically the Stop Pedophilia bill. 2019, a draft bill labeled Stop Pedophilia was put forward in the Polish parliament. It envisages the introduction of harsh penalties, including possible imprisonment for anyone acting in the educational context or on school premises who propagates or approves of undertaking by a minor of sexual intercourse or any other sexual act. They go on later to say, you know, contrary to what opponents claim, research carried out at the national and international level has demonstrated the benefits of comprehensive sexuality education, including delayed sexual initiation, reduced risk-taking, increased use of contraception, and improved attitudes related to sexual health. And like what Sam said earlier is also knowing boundaries. Kids learn like what is a no-go zone for adults and what isn't. And like look, that is important to know.
This has been litigated for decades in this country. This has all been litigated like during the Bush administration, the idea of like zero sex ed. They wanted no sexual education. None. Zero for anybody.
Still Tulsi's position.
And they're just like sort of like trying to find like little slots they can slot into. That's what's going on here. And this is the way. Look, passes in Florida. That national legislation is going to be a model. I guarantee you. You're going to see that legislation in Alabama, in Louisiana. You're going to see it in Indiana. You're going to see it in Mississippi.
That's the value of this, because it's being introduced in like under a Democratic president and in the minority in the House. But what it does do is say we have your back on the federal level.
It opens up the conversation.
Yeah,
it opens up the conversation so that they can do this. Yeah, and if this goes unchecked, it is a way of basically you shove gay people, transgender people back into the closet. You make them pariahs. You make sure that that you give plenty of time for any type of like homophobic or transphobic development amongst kids. And that's the game plan.
Well, so this is introduced in a deep red state. Copy and paste this legislation, just make it more applicable for the state, can get appealed, go through a right-wing appeals court, go all the way to the Supreme Court, and what do you know? Clarence Thomas and co. are going to be very happy to uphold this kind of legislation, let alone like the roadmap that he laid out for Republican state legislatures at the end of Roe, which included, overturning of precedent. They'll be happy to uphold these kinds of laws in other states.
Totally. And, you got to believe Sam Alito is not going to inhibit the privacy rights of people, because he said that in his brief.
Do we find that in Ted Kennedy's diaries also?
Ted Kennedy's diaries have just been, are being printed in a book. And he talks about how Sam Alito came into his office and said, I promise you, Roe v. Wade is precedent. I would never overturn it. And I mean, the guy's a liar. He's a liar.